Night guard. Quiet. Too quiet. Old industrial park. My post was this small wooden cabin near the main gate. One flickering fluorescent light. A tiny space heater that barely worked. And a dusty radio that only picked up static after midnight. Most nights, I'd pass time scrolling my phone, sipping coffee, and watching raccoons rummage through the dumpsters. But one night, something felt different. Around 3:40 a.m., the security monitors flickered. For a split second, I saw someone standing by the entrance gate, motionless, facing the camera. I blinked, and the feed cut to static. I thought maybe it was a glitch. The cameras were old. When the feed came back, no one was there. At exactly 4:17 a.m., the phone inside the cabin rang. Now, that wasn't unusual. My supervisor sometimes checked in randomly, but this time, when I picked it up, there was only breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. I hung up, waited a few seconds, then called the main office. No one answered. After a minute, the phone rang again. Same thing, breathing, followed by a faint whisper that I couldn't make out. I thought maybe it was a prank. There were a few homeless people who sometimes messed around near the property. So I grabbed my flashlight, stepped outside, and checked the gate. The air was cold and heavy. I could see my breath hanging in the beam of the light. Everything was still. The only sound was the faint hum of the distant highway. Then I noticed the gate's chain was unhooked. Not broken, unhooked. It was as if someone had deliberately taken it off and placed it neatly on the ground. I followed the gravel path past the gate, calling out, "Hello? Anyone out here?" No answer. But I heard footsteps behind me, slow, crunching footsteps on gravel. I turned around fast, no one there. My flashlight flickered. That's when my radio buzzed to life. Even though I hadn't touched it, through the static, I heard my own voice. My exact voice saying, "You shouldn't be out here." I froze. I hadn't spoken into it. I dropped the radio and bolted back to the cabin. When I got inside, the cabin phone was off the hook, swinging slowly back and forth. I reached out to hang it up and realized there was still someone on the line. They whispered again, clearer this time, "Don't leave the gate open." Then the line went dead. When my shift ended and the morning guard arrived, I told him what happened. He just stared at me and said, "You got the 417 call too, huh?" I asked what he meant, and he said, "That phone's been disconnected for 5 years. They shut it off after the last guy, you know." He trailed off. Apparently, a security guard had vanished one night years ago. They found his flashlight lying in the road, still on. The gate had been left wide open. I quit that week. But sometimes, when I wake up around 4:17 inches the morning, I swear I can still hear that same static buzz and a voice saying, "Don't leave the gate open." It's been about 3 months since I quit that night shift job. I moved to a small apartment in another city, started working day hours, and tried to forget everything that happened. But I can't. Every night around 4:17 a.m., I wake up on my own. No alarm, no noise, just that heavy, familiar feeling. Sometimes I swear I hear a phone ring once in the distance, even though there's no phone in my room. At first, I told myself it was just stress, my brain replaying things that never really happened. But last week proved otherwise. I was driving home late after visiting a friend. The highway was empty, except for fog rolling low across the road. My car clock flicked from 4:16 to 4:17. Right as it did, my radio, which had been off, turned itself on. Static. Then a voice, the same rough, static-filled whisper I remembered from that night at the cabin. It said, "You left the gate open." I slammed on the brakes and pulled over. My hands were shaking. I killed the engine and just sat there, breathing. The static stopped, and everything went silent again. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Same thing, slow breathing. Then a whisper. "Turn around." I looked in my rearview mirror. Through the fog, I saw a faint shape standing on the side of the road. Not moving, just watching. Tall, thin, wearing what looked like a dark uniform. I couldn't make out the face, but I knew the stance. It was the same posture I used to have when guarding that gate. I floored it didn't stop until I reached my apartment parking lot. When I got inside, I went straight to my window and looked down. My car door, the driver's side, was wide open. I know I locked it. I always lock it. The next night, I tried to record myself sleeping, just to see if anything strange happened. At 4:17 a.m., the camera caught a faint ringing sound like an old payphone, muffled and distant. Then a man's voice whispering right next to the microphone, "Close the gate." I stopped the recording there, but before I could delete it, my apartment phone rang. I don't even have a landline, at least. I didn't think I did. It was coming from inside the wall, behind the plaster. It rang once. The next morning, I went down to the basement to talk to the building manager. There, half buried in dust and cobwebs, I found an old disconnected phone box with a cracked receiver. Written on the wall next to it, in faded red marker, was one sentence: "Do not answer after 4:17. I'm starting to think that call never really stopped. It just moved with me.